the thing is, I do believe there was talk about these things. I believe if we study history, the Confederates were able to shoot pterodactyls, back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online.
Google it
They
yourself.
spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It was a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
What I'm saying is Jesus wrote a dinosaur to work. That's history. It's in the Bible. How to Train Your Dragon.
Historical facts.
And if you don't believe it, do your own research. Pull up Google. You'll find the picture, I promise.
Oh my God.
Thank you, John Gleason, Godless engineer, for gifting me this beautiful moment. Y'all remember when they tried to cancel Steven Spielberg for posing with an animatronic triceratops animal rights activist?
Back it up.
Hit it from the back.
Cloaca. Historical facts.
Eat my ass, BP. You're down here bailing on the rest of us because you don't want to process your grief and shame like a normal person by drinking and mistreating strangers.
No, Rick. It is you who must nibble my cloaca, or bird asshole.
Everyone knows what a cloaca is.
back in the Civil War, and they spread these things out. Anybody can look it up online. They spread these things out, and this is a historical fact. So, they spread this thing out, and it's got a huge winglet. It's a pterodactyl they shot. So, of course, these things have been around. Now, they went extinct, obviously, slowly, but surely. And so...
Paul Bunyan was sharing some Funyuns with his pet velociraptor.
Whoa.
Oh, you thought it was an ox? Roll back the clock. Let me knock the socks off. Historical facts.
I didn't cut out. You heard me. Are you a pervert or something? Okay.
What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? I'm the Godless Engineer, and I critically analyze apologist claims to give you the best arguments and information so that you can stand up and use your voice. Tonight, we're going to be taking a look at a new mathematical argument for God. And definitely this guy is going to be committing a lot of fallacies. He's also going to be making a lot of assumptions and leaving a lot of information out. He's going to try to equivocate some things and provide false analogies from one thing to another. It's non sequiturs all over the place tonight. So if you want to fuck around and find out how mathematical infinities prove God, then please stay tuned. All right, heathens. Well, if you don't know, here at the Godless Engineer channel, we do donate to charities. This month, we are going to be buying a whole bunch of toys and stuff, probably mainly gift cards for Kids to Love. It's an organization here in North Alabama that helps foster kids, both find homes as well as take care of foster kids. One of the things they do every year is they run sort of like a toy drive so that people from around North Alabama can get presents for these foster children and help out that way. So we do this every year. It's our 5th year doing it. Last year we were able to get a whole bunch of shit. This year we're hoping to be able to get a whole bunch of shit. Most of the time, though, kids are just wanting gift cards and shit. Teenagers want that. The smaller kids want other things, but most other people, they just buy for the smaller kids and just say fuck off to the teenagers for some reason. I don't know. But in any case, we are going to be, donating this month to Kids to Love. And I hope that you can help us, donate tonight. Daniel M. sent in his member chat for the month that says, David says good night. Tuesday is my birthday. Oh, well, you know what we got to do. We're not going to be live on Tuesday, but we are live now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Daniel. Happy birthday to you. There you go, Daniel. I hope you have a great birthday. And David, I hope you have an awesome weekend and a good night there, bud. And then we got Elizabeth Richardson, who's sending in a super chat saying, for the kiddos, have a lovely weekend, folks. I've got my kiddo with us this weekend. Our kiddo, sorry. We've got our kiddo this weekend. So, we're definitely going to have a great weekend. I mean, he mainly stays in his room, but he comes out occasionally to tell us about whatever in the fuck he's doing. But, I mean, that's how all teenagers are, right? I mean, I was like that. But, I kind of didn't want to be around my parents at that age. But he doesn't seem to have that problem. He just likes to say. Anyways, so, we're thank you so much there, Elizabeth Richardson, for that. We do have a new mathematical argument for God to go over tonight. But we also have some Today I Learned, as well as some comments to address. So, without further ado, let's get to Today I Learned. Perfectly out of tune. Here we go. Today I learned. Your moral actions are not judged. You're only judged for believing in me. Thank you. Jesus coming in with very, very true statements. All right, so first up on Today I Learned, we've got that the reason why olive oil bottles are so dark is because it's protecting the oil from the light, which, if not dark, will degrade the oil. That's very interesting. I had no idea that was a thing. So, in case you're wondering, why is this bottle dark? It's because of that. You didn't know that oil spoils? Oil spoils? Nope, I did not know that oil spoils. All right, next up on Today I Learned that the oldest tree ever discovered was cut down by a scientist and a park ranger in order to retrieve a $50 scientific tool. I mean, I'm wondering if they just didn't know that it was like the oldest tree still standing, and when they cut it down, they both looked at it and was like, oh, fuck. The tool was not worth this much, sir. Daniel M. sending in another super chat saying, when I was a teenager, I only came out of my room once in a while to let everyone know if I saw my shadow. All right there, punks of Tony Daniel. And then finally on Today I Learned that dolphins have a highly developed spoken language. Similar to human language, this indicates a high level of intelligence and consciousness in dolphins. In addition to this, hold on, I gotta move this so I can read it. In addition to this, dolphin brains are somewhat larger and more complex than human ones. So, I mean, that's quite interesting there. I didn't know how. I knew that dolphins were pretty intelligent, and I think I had heard about the spoken language thing before. Jesus loves the little children, maybe a little too much. It's a true story. But in any case, so yeah, now that's a thing that you know. In case anybody quizzes you about dolphin intelligence, you know a thing now. You know 3 things now, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this little dose of knowledge before we get into me smack talk in a religious video. But first, we're going to smack talk some comments. Still out of tune. Comments of the day. Prepare to facepalm yourself in the next week. You mean perfect? It's perfect. I agree, honey. Horrible. Anyways, let's get to these comments, shall we? We've got about 7 comments to go over. The first one is from Dipshit PragerU. Sorry, I just had to position the vertical thing. PragerU says, if you don't understand that God is necessary for morality, just look at our society. Like like our society in American society, because I mean, like our society, it seems to be primarily run by Christians and religious people. I mean, at least that's the makeup of our governments. Mostly religious people serving in our governments. I don't know what they could mean about a godless society. Now, obviously there are godless societies out there, like non-religious societies. Norway, Sweden, or a couple. You know, I could probably ask. Let me ask Google real quick. List 10 non-religious countries. From across the web, it says France is non-religious. Oh, Russia's non-religious. That's not a good one to lead off with. Denmark, Germany, Japan, Austria. Well, okay, it's this is not a good list because United States is on here because technically we are non-religious in that we have a separation of church and state. Technically, Czech Republic. Let's say here's a better list from the 2020 Pew Research. Czech Republic is 78.4% non-religious. North Korea is labeled as non-religious. Estonia, Japan, Hong Kong, which is in China, South Korea, Latvia, but Norway, Denmark, all those places, like it. What's wrong with our society? There are obviously godless societies out there that are perfectly fine. And it's just because PragerU doesn't like how some things are. He claims that apparently that's all bad. So, you know, that I don't understand it when religious people say this, because we can obviously rationalize moral things like moral actions as good or bad, right or wrong, without needing to invoke God. And in fact, I would say that most societies now actually act antithetical to what God has commanded in any of the holy books that primarily run these religious groups. So, again, I don't know what in the fuck they're talking about. You're really fucking stupid. Next is this Mindy Robinson person on Facebook. Apparently, this Mindy Robinson is sort of like I don't want to say newscaster, I guess podcaster for like a 4th or 5th tier conservative like news outlet and blog or news site or something like that. But anyways, Mindy here says, imagine thinking you came from a giant cosmic accident from random monkeys fucking, but that other people are weird for thinking that there's more to life than this. Well, so yeah, I mean, she thinks that we come from dirt. God, fashioned us out of dirt and then basically did CPR on these dirt bodies to give us life, the breath of life, by the way, for any pro-lifers that might be watching right now that are religious. So random monkeys fucking, I feel, is better than magical dust people, right? I feel like that's better. But a giant cosmic accident. It's not like she says accident in that like it wasn't intended to happen, but it's still part of the natural order of reality. Like the natural order of reality is that universes inflate. She sees it as a giant cosmic accident, but that's a poor way to describe the inflation of the universe. Just like we don't have to have a god or any kind of supernatural being to explain why rain happens or lightning occurs or the rock cycle continues to operate. We don't need any of those things. So we don't need a god for it to explain any of those things. We also don't need a god to explain how this universe inflated. So there's that. Number 2, random monkeys fucking. So it was. She obviously doesn't understand evolution because I mean we are still great apes, so we're still monkeys fucking. If you want to put it in that kind of context, but you know, yes, we did evolve along with the other great apes out of a proto ape-like creature that diverged several different times. Even within our own direct lineage, there was a lot of, you know, different species that came out of that. We're just the only ones left. So, of our particular branch of the great apes. So, I mean, yeah, I get it. You don't understand science, but just because you can't grasp science doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that maybe you need to do a little bit more, like, you know, studying about it. I mean, that's all that means. So, you know, she's living in ignorance over there, and I'm perfectly fine for her to live in ignorance, but you do it on my page, and I'm going to say some shit back. Aaron Paul, not the cool one from Breaking Bad, but Aaron Paul, he says, Godless engineer, yes, as in stop the blaspheme, especially since you do not believe in God. So let me get this straight. First off, I'm supposed to stop the blaspheme, whatever he means by that. I guess he means blaspheming, but he just the one blaspheme. I got to stop the one blaspheme, and then we'll cover the rest, okay? But I don't believe in his God, so therefore I don't have reverence for his God, but I still need to not blaspheme his God? I mean, blaspheming God is just like, I don't believe in God. Like, that could be considered blaspheming God. Obviously, the one, you know, going to it is God damn it, or saying, oh, God, or, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, those things are also, they could consider blaspheming God. I don't hold a reverence for your God. Your magical psychopath up there does not affect me whatsoever, and I don't care if he's offended by it. If he is offended by it, he can make himself known and tell me to stop. God damn it, I guess he wants me to keep goddamn fucking blaspheming his name then. Because he don't give a shit, so why should I? If he exists. I don't think he exists. I can't figure out why atheists have time to bother those of faith with something that makes their day better off. It's most likely because atheists still feel empty in need of something. Okay, that's one possibility, sure. That's one thing that we could go with here. Is that somehow, for some reason, you know, I just still feel empty, so I've got to quote unquote attack the religious people by posting my opinions on my page, or not to give the illusion or perception of it's just a dichotomous thing, but I'm just giving you an alternate here, or I'm constantly confronted with religious bullshit that I disagree with, and so I make my opinions known on my page, and I don't show any kind of fucking reverence to your goddamn deity, so I post my opinions, and other people agree with those opinions, and you don't like them. Maybe you feel like you need to bitch all the time. I don't know. All I know is that I'm not in need of something other than I just want to voice my opinion. And that's it. I don't care if people share or like my shit or comment on it or anything. I'm just putting my voice out there. Just so happens that my voice also matches a lot of other people's voices. Not in the literal sense, just in the content, obviously. Anyways, thank you, Aaron Paul. Hope you have a good night there, bud. He's not watching. I don't know why I'm talking to him like he is. Oh, shit. A screen cap that's really good, apparently. I think this came from my phone. That's why it's, like, so large. My phone always screen caps in, like, high def. Anyways, Danielle Australia. Australia, maybe? Daniel, it's either Danielle Estrella or Daniel Estrella 5766. Man, that's a lot of this exact same username. Anyways, an hour and 56 minutes in, and I have not heard any evidence that shows that crucifixion is a legend. Well, in said video, I feel like this is an hour and 56 minutes in. I can't remember exactly which video this might have been. It definitely wasn't my Bart Ehrman video where we talked about the resurrection or the crucifixion. But it sounds like a stream. But so if you want, I don't have evidence that it didn't happen or that it's only a legend. I just am trying to find evidence that it actually did happen. And the problem is that we don't. So a lot of people make this mistake of saying, well, we don't have evidence to say this for sure, as me saying, oh, that's evidence that the crucifix is a legend. Basically an argument from silence. It's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that in order for me to make a concrete statement about the crucifixion, like that it happened, I would need evidence in order to be secure in saying that. We don't have evidence like that, so therefore I don't believe that it happened. And until I can find a good reason to believe that it happened, I will continue to think that it probably didn't happen. Also, the whole legend thing is a bit misleading here because it's not that I think that the crucifixion's a legend or anything like that. I think that crucifixion was always seen as a way that the Savior could die. Maybe not specifically Roman crucifixion, but, just a basic shaming of the Savior figure, which would include displaying their body either till death or after death. Either way works for crucifixion. So I think that was just a readily acceptable thing in Jewish ideology, and so that's how it came to be believed that that's what happened, because the Savior was prefigured to suffer a shameful death, and that's how they understood it. At least the group that eventually turned into the Christians that believe in the crucifixion, that's how they viewed it. Gonna keep listening. Not trying to be a dick or nothing, but obviously I am one. But it seems like you've already decided Jesus was a myth and then started looking for that evidence instead of looking at the evidence and then drawing a conclusion. And this is something we see a lot of mythicists do. So this is actually completely backwards to how it happened for me. And I can tell you exactly how it happened for me because I remember it clearly. I was having arguments on Facebook, as one does. And people were saying, oh, you can't prove that Jesus existed. And I'm like, fuck you mean? Of course we have evidence that he existed. And so I started looking for evidence. And in, the small amount of time that I looked in order to keep the conversation relevant, I couldn't find any. And so I then progressed into a much longer investigation of it, trying to find evidence, listening to the evidence that we have for the historicity of Jesus, and not being convinced by it. Like I totally could see right through the evidence, like, oh yeah, that doesn't actually prove that he's historical. Oh, that doesn't prove that he's historical. And so that was me literally drawing a conclusion from the evidence that we have. And I get it. There are some people that are perfectly fine with the evidence that's been presented, but I'm just not fine with it because I don't feel that any of it actually proves that a fuck walked the earth and called himself Jesus and then a movement started after he died. Like, I just don't think that there's any evidence for that. So, all right. That was number 4. We got a few more to go. She who shall not be named said something dipshitty. God doesn't make mistakes. I feel like this is pretty insensitive to those out there that are going through like various genetic diseases. I myself have diabetes, and that's either genetic. For me, I believe it's genetic because my dad has it, but that's where your pancreas doesn't produce insulin. But I'm also insulin resistant, so that makes it incredibly hard. Which After my surgery, though, at the end of October, that's gotten a whole lot better, taking far less insulin now. So the insulin resistance has been severely reduced for me, but that's thanks to doctors and medical science. Definitely not fucking God. If it was God, you know, I could have become a Christian and like that, my insulin resistance went away. But you know what wouldn't have happened? Exactly fucking that. But in any case, back to she who shall not be named here. God, I mean, if God exists and he doesn't make mistakes, then he definitely creates kids with genetic diseases, with bone cancer. That's a big one that normally I go to because it just seems pointless. Why give kids bone cancer or cancer at all, really? But there are several different genetic diseases and birth defects and all this other stuff. So if that's God not making a mistake, then he purposefully did that for whatever reason. And the only reason that I can really come up with is that, oh, that God's a fucking dick. And I feel like maybe if you believe in God, you shouldn't say dumb fucking things like this. Yeah. All right, and then this one from an old video, Lee Strobel's 4 Reasons Why the Resurrection is Historical. Old video. Spalding 5198 says, "You'd do so much better if you just addressed each issue without the snide attitude and cursing. Be scholarly and not juvenile and sinister." Well, you know, I just had Carrier on my channel on Wednesday for a live stream. He said fucking a whole bunch in that stream. So, I mean, I feel like if cursing, if cursing's not the mark of a scholar, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of scholars out there that probably shouldn't be called scholars. But I feel like, just cursing is, I'm not going to say the mark of an educated mind, because you could definitely curse and not be educated. But I feel like cursing is perfectly fine. It's part of our vernacular, part of our, especially down here in the South. Like, I mean, growing up in the South, I can't tell you how many times I've just heard people casually cuss. And online, people always take cursing as like being angry. And I typically I'll just be like, oh, okay, well that's fucking dumb. And like, that's not angry at all. I'm just correctly identifying a dipshit statement. So I think that there's a lot of people out there that don't like cursing, but then there's another segment of people within that group that want to force other people to not curse as well. And I just don't like that. I don't like trying to police people's attitudes in that way, because there's nothing wrong with cursing. Next, or finally, we've got user UV3SV3QD2X. Careful, keep your beliefs, but do not attempt to traduce Allah. Is traduce like a word? Traduce. Speak badly or tell traduce. Or tell lies about someone so as to damage their reputation. Okay, well, that's a today I learned for me. I didn't know that was a thing. That's pretty cool. So don't traduce Allah. Piss be upon him. The traduce? No, it probably shouldn't be. Capitalized. Traduce shouldn't be capitalized here. That's the first thing that she honed in on. You're not grammar police, honey. So I like how this is like not evenly handed here, because it's like you can keep your beliefs, but don't insult my God. And it's like, It's like you can have your beliefs, but if you talk shitty, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Is typically the response that I get from Muslims out there. The ones that are pretty vocal and pretty protective of their God, they get pretty serious about it. I'm not exactly sure what goes on with that, like why that's a thing. But I mean, I see Christians doing it too, like, you know, these hardcore Christians that, you know, are can be pretty violent. But I will keep my beliefs, and I really don't give a fuck about your God sensibilities. And I get that you respect your God, but I don't. I don't respect any God. Gods are just ideas, and I think ideas should face ridicule and criticism. And so I will continue to do those things. Allah, piss be upon him. There you go. All right, so that's going to be it for the comments tonight, and I await all of the angry messages from Muslims out there that could maybe watching. I don't know if they watch it all. But in any case, we don't have Brosivas tonight. He got too drunk and he passed out early, so sorry about that. Oh, yeah, well, he's under the weather. She said he's under the weather, and I'm just coming out here airing his dirty laundry. He got too drunk to get out of bed. And you see, he can't hear me right now because he's passed out. Sick. No. He's a good person. What about when he disparages me? That's not a good person thing to do. It's just rude. He's just rude. Okay. All right. Well, now we're going to head on into the newfangled mathematical argument for God. I hope you guys are ready for it. And we're here. Don't have a cool switch for that. I still haven't like redone things with all my transitions and shit. But anyways, all right. So apparently, this guy is trying to prove that God exists and that atheists are wrong, and he's got a mathematical argument for God, which is interesting. We've seen mathematical arguments for God before. Just before we start with this, you know, mathematics has been created by humans to describe the reality that we live in, to describe what we experience in reality. And there is a debate on whether or not math was created or it's just revealed in some kind of way. The terms are nominalism and I looked this up earlier. It's nominalism and a realism are the two different kind of schools of thought when it comes to mathematics. And I think that the underlying like mechanics are there, but that doesn't mean that it's describable to like humans or any kind of intelligent species that would try to understand reality. So I think that mathematics is created to describe the mechanics of reality, to describe things we experience in reality. And I think that that's a separate discussion from like those mechanics existing in the first place. And that I feel like, you know, if the mechanics were different, then our mathematics would be different. So like if there was a different universe that had different mechanics going on, different physics, different physical laws and all that other kind of stuff, then mathematics and physics and science and everything like that they would change as well, given the changes in the underlying mechanics of reality. So, Philly in the chat is saying we discovered math, we didn't invent it. I mean, I can see an argument for that, but I just wholeheartedly disagree, because you know, we have to come up with laws and everything to describe the interactions in reality, to describe the things that we experience in reality. So on one hand, math is invented in that we have figured these things out and we have described them mathematically. But I agree that the underlying mechanics of it are still there, and we have discovered those mechanics. It's just that the mathematics is the interpretation of those mechanics into something that we can understand and we can apply to the real world. I feel like that particular bit of nuance there is kind of where I stand. So I understand it if you disagree with my interpretation of it. This is a heated debate, I guess, in philosophy as to whether it's revealed or if it's invented. I'm sort of somewhere in between those two, with a mixture of both nominalism and realism on this topic. But in any case, this guy right here takes the more realism aspect of it and tries to apply it to a god. And so we're gonna investigate this real quick.
To explain everything in the universe. It's true that science... Does God exist? Many atheists think there's no reason to believe in God because we have science to explain everything in the universe. It's true that science is able to explain the natural world, that's what it's for, but by definition science cannot tell us whether there's anything outside or above the natural world. In other words, whether there's anything supernatural.
Okay, so basically you could boil this down to him saying, well, science can't describe magic. And I feel like this is a fundamental misunderstanding of what science is and what it's geared to do. Because while science, it's not that science can't explore the supernatural or it can't reveal things that are supernatural. It's just that these magical supernatural explanations are not needed in science, because science uses empirical evidence in order to explain reality. It uses natural things in order to explain the natural world. The supernatural or magic existing beyond that it's not that science can't describe it. It's just that it operates differently than what science is crafted to describe, if that makes any sense. Supernatural things operate fundamentally differently than what science can describe. So it's not that it can't do it in one sense. It's just that supernatural things work differently. And so that kind of scopes it out of the realm of science. It just, because science doesn't need those kinds of explanations. What's up, heathens? I just real quick want to let y'all know about a new course featuring Dr. Richard Carrier. Sorry, just ignore that. I accidentally hit the wrong button there.
Generally, when people speak of God, they mean a supernatural, all-knowing mind who is everywhere and can do anything.
Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. So God, this is actually a very specific kind of God, supernatural, above nature, omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent. So basically, it's a tri-omni God that exists outside of reality. And that's not representative, like that's representative of like the Abrahamic religions, and it may be representative of other versions of God out there. But you can already tell he's starting off with the presumption of a definition of God, a presumption of the qualities of God. And we just simply don't know these qualities. Like, supernatural, I mean, I think that you could probably get away with saying, oh, God is above nature or outside of this universe, or outside, not this universe, but outside of reality. You could probably say that, but then tacking on the tri-omni part, I feel like is getting way too specific to have a general discussion where this whole mathematical argument would apply.
So what is math, and what does it have to do with God? Math is about numbers and information about those numbers and ways numbers connect to each other.
Well, I mean, yes, those are all things about mathematics, but all of that right there is stuff that we've made, that we've noticed, we've given names to, and all this other stuff. So, I mean, you're right. There's an underlying there's underlying mechanics behind it that helps describe that is part of reality. But this understanding and distilling down of that information, which is always changing, by the way. Mathematics, is not constantly being changed, but it has been changed throughout history. Did it die? Oh, is it? Hold on, can you hear
Many
this?
atheists, but where do we find all this to believe in God? Because we have science to explain everything in the universe.
There. Okay. So sorry, hon. I could have come over and helped you. So, but anyways, like I said, stuck in the middle place there, and so I'm fine with this.
Each other, but where do we find all this math? We can't see math, we can't touch math, we can't taste math. Math is only in the mind. We find
I feel like, we can definitely physically touch, like, as far as like math goes, like you could put 3 blocks together and you can like touch them and know that there's 3 blocks. But even if math only existed conceptually, I don't see like how this has any applicability to anything.
Find it simply by thinking about it and figuring more and more things out. But wait, math also explains things. Math can explain everything from simple counting to the movement of planets. For anything you can think of, there's a bunch of math that explains what's going on, even down to the atomic level.
Yes, because mathematics was created to explain our experience in reality, which is a totally natural explanation. So, I mean, I don't see how this helps us get to God either, because just saying, oh, mathematics does its job of explaining reality and our experiences in reality, that seems like just a primary axiom of how shit works.
So, if math is only in our minds, but it also explains the natural world, then where does it come from? There's 2 possibilities, really. One is that math is just something we invented to explain what we observe in the natural world, and that would mean the origin of math is natural. But the other possibility is that math is already there because it controls the universe, and we've discovered it. And if that's true, then the origin of math is supernatural.
Okay, so again, he's not using the words here, nominalism and realism, but that's basically the 2 possibilities that he's talking about here, and this is where the debate lies. Obviously, the math that we interact with on a daily basis, like the mathematical concepts that we interact with and everything like that, are constructs that we have created. That they are things that we have created, and I think that saying that we discovered math as if math was already there for us to just find, like digging around in the dirt or something like that, or digging around reality. I feel like the issue that I have with that, and maybe somebody in the comments can maybe elucidate my problems with my perception of this, but for us to say, oh, this math was already here and we just discovered it, I feel like that's saying, well, this math right here will never change. This math right here we will never find a different way that it works anywhere in the universe. And so that is absolutely how it works. Now, obviously I'm not talking about like the basics of math, those kinds of things. But I do feel like if you're honest, you're not going to say that this is absolutely how it works, because this is our understanding of how it works now. That understanding can change in the future as we, as we investigate, our reality. Those things can change. Oh, is it? Oh, it died? I'm so sorry. I just gave it to you so you could put it on the charger. Okay. I thought I had it on the charger so that it'd be charged, but I don't know. I think maybe I need to get new headsets. I have those black ones, but I mean, you've been using them. No. But anyways, so I feel like I can't go as far as to say this is the only math that we'll have. Elucidate. Less than Lucent said, I'm out. But I don't feel confident enough to say that's the only math that we'll have, as if math can't change. I'm not saying like discover new principles, but I'm saying, like, for instance, we had this idea of how the planets moved and everything like that, and then that was turned on its head, and it actually planets moved in this totally different way that Isaac Newton had to create a whole new version or a whole new extension of math, calculus, in order to be able to describe the orbits of planets and things. So, like, I feel like math being a man-made construct, having a natural origin to it, is because the reason why I stick more on that side of it with the math that we understand is because it's our understanding. It's limited by our experience and by our intellect, that math. And then the underlying mechanics obviously are there. They'll always be there. They've always been part of reality. And in one sense, we do discover things, but then in order to describe that discovery, we have to create new mathematics for it. So that's why I kind of sit in the middle. But as far as what people understand as mathematics, I stick firmly with the created original or natural origin. Now, you'll notice that he jumped logically here, origin being supernatural, meaning that it's beyond reality, right? Of course, he understands it as being beyond this universe or beyond this instance, right? But I feel like that just because the underlying mathematics is part of reality, that doesn't mean that the origin is supernatural. It can still be natural. Both of these things are natural explanations, but he automatically he presumes that the only other option is supernatural in explanation.
Here's why the latter option is correct. Math contains infinite information. There's an infinite number of numbers, each with their own individual properties, and there's an infinite number of numbers in between any two numbers. And we keep discovering things. Pi, which is the number that explains the area of a circle, has an infinite number of digits that we keep discovering by doing calculations.
Wait, I had a question about this. Because pi doesn't describe the area of the circle. Pi can be used to find the area of a circle because the area is pi times the radius squared. But let's see, what is pi? Pi is a mathematical constant that is the ratio of the circle's circumference to its diameter. So no, pi does not describe the area of a circle. You can use pi to describe, to figure out what the area of the circle is, but the pi is the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, and that number is always 3.14, a whole bunch of fucking numbers. It's an infinite number set after that. So yeah, that was a wrong thing.
If we were just making this stuff up, we could make pi be whatever we want it to be, but we can't do that because we know that that's not true.
Well, yeah, it's not true because, you know, when you do the math on it, that's what it ends up being. And I mean, I would probably classify this maybe under the whole underlying mechanics thing, but we also have this other layer of it that we have created in order to understand this aspect of reality. So also, this is the whole infinite information thing that he's getting into. He's going to lead to how this proves God.
We know that all this information is out there somewhere, but it can't be in our physical universe because our universe is finite and math is infinite. That means math contains every possible combination of numbers, and if we use numbers as code for letters, then math contains every possible combination of letters as well. That means every book that has ever been written already exists encoded in math somewhere. In fact, every book that possibly could be written already exists in math.
Okay, this is just a ridiculous fucking argument here. For one thing, with infinite being a concept in math, it doesn't have to exist in reality in order for it to be a concept in general. I mean, as a concept, it doesn't need a physical space to exist within. He's acting like, oh, infinites exist in math, therefore it has to exist in reality. And I feel like that's a bad equation right there. This whole thing about books already being written and everything like that, like letters exist conceptually. There's an infinite amount of different arrangements in which letters can exist in. Therefore, every book that ever gets written is already existing, and it's just the authors discovering the book. I feel like that's definitely taking away the ingenuity of being able to put all those letters together. Same way with math, it takes away the ingenuity of being able to correctly describe what we experience in nature, to say that, oh, it's just discovered, in my opinion. But obviously, he's also, one thing that he pointed out earlier, and I'll go back a little bit here. Oh, fuck.
Somewhere.
Oh, okay. The screen just didn't change at all. Right here, infinite information. So he's correct that there's an infinite number of points between two values. Like there's an infinite number of values that exist between 2 points. Okay? And he says that, oh, well, this universe is finite, and but mathematics is infinite, right? And so this has to exist somewhere, and it must extend into the supernatural for this to happen. And this is how math is supernatural, I guess. But what he's not thinking about is like between, like if you hold like 2 points in space, there's an infinite amount of points in between those points. Conceptually in mathematics, like you can break it down to however small a point that you want to. The way it was taught to me in college was that if you take 2 points, what's the point between those two? 1/2, and then what's the point between those two? And then you can continuously half it to infinity. That's why in calculus you start off by calculating what is the limit as something approaches infinity. Because you can go for infinity and never reach like one certain value, but you can approximate it as approaching that value, and so at some point in this infinite set, it will hit that value. Is the idea, and so he's saying that it doesn't exist in reality when in fact it actually does.
Somewhere. In fact, every book that possibly could be written already exists in math. And if we use numbers as code for particles and their locations, then you could say there's an exact copy of our universe encoded in math. But there's also more stuff in math. So that's why math can't possibly be contained just within our universe.
So that he got to his conclusion there. Also with the whole, if we convert these numbers into letters and all this other stuff, I don't know why he has to go through that. I mean, you heard me earlier, like letters exist. Therefore, you can, because there's an infinite combination of letters and spaces out there, every book has already been written. You don't have to go through this rigmarole of converting, numbers into math or numbers into letters and all this other stuff. Like, I mean, all of this is conceptual, by the way. Like it's just a concept in math. but that doesn't mean that it can't exist in reality. Like there's no logical reason why an infinite set can't exist, right? But infinity itself is just a concept.
But that's just the beginning. There's many pieces of evidence in math to show that math has a designer. Here's an example. One time someone discovered that this simple equation makes a very interesting shape when you graph it in the complex plane, and this is called the Mandelbrot set. But people have analyzed this shape and have found some very scary things about it. What's amazing about the Mandelbrot set is that you can zoom in infinitely and you'll keep finding new things. Over here you can keep finding more and more copies of the Mandelbrot set no matter how far you zoom in. You could even zoom in really close to something like this, and it takes a while, but look, there's another little baby Mandelbrot set. Alternatively, you could go into this region and find completely different things. On the left side of this thing, you'll find these weird elephant-shaped things that have spirals that go on forever, and you could even zoom into the side of one of the spirals and find new spirals that repeat infinitely and keep generating new infinite patterns like this. Or you could go on the other side of the elephants and find these weird seahorse-shaped things that have different kinds of spirals that are connected to each other, and once again, they keep going on forever. You can zoom in infinitely, and you'll keep finding new patterns, but like I said, it's a different type of pattern. Seriously, anytime you explore the Mandelbrot set, you can find brand new things, possibly things that no human has ever seen before, because like I said, there is infinite complexity and infinite information in this one shape. That's why this little shape is so scary. We did not invent this because we discovered it by accident, but we did not discover it in our universe. It has infinite complexity, so it can't possibly be in our universe because the universe doesn't have infinites. We discovered it just by calculating it. So where the heck did this thing come from?
I mean, obviously somebody wrote the equation down and then they plotted it, and that's what happened. I mean, you know, the fact that, you know, you can continuously plug smaller and smaller and smaller numbers into an equation is marvelous and supernatural to them. I feel like that explains this entire video, because this is not all that magical. Like it's amazing that this particular equation does this, right? I mean, it's amazing, but it's not supernatural. Like, this isn't magic. Like, plugging numbers into an equation is not fucking magic. Like, you could have like a line, like you could have y equals 2x, right? And you could plot that on a plane. And if you plot that on a plane and you give it an infinite amount, then you have an infinite line. So I guess he would come to the conclusion, oh, well, that line extends all the way out into the supernatural magical realm where God is going to sit on it and spin. I guess that's what you would have to come to for that. But this is just literally plugging smaller and smaller and smaller numbers into an equation and then being amazed that the equation still works. This doesn't exist in reality. Well, considering that we can't observe things that small right there, or produce things that are that small, I feel like, true, this doesn't exist in reality yet, because you could plug this into a computer and have it draw the Mandelbrot set, right? And, you know, it, depending on how advanced our technology gets, you could even probably go down a few sizes, you know, really small and do it there. But the thing is that, like, you can't have a machine infinitely generate a Mandelbrot set, like, in physical reality. I mean, that would obviously take a long time for it to get into anything that couldn't be viewable at all. And but that's because of how small the numbers are. I'm not convinced that math is magic because you could plug numbers into an equation and get an answer. That is not magical.
Basic common sense says that someone designed this, but no human designed it. Like we said, math only exists in the mind, so its origin must also be a mind.
What? Its origin must be in the mind? So, like, I think I think where he's getting to, I think he's building this up, is that because math only exists in our mind, which, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with that. That means that it has to come from a mind. And I mean, I guess I would agree with that, because math, the math that we have and we interact with, is part of our minds, and our minds are the ones that created it. But that doesn't mean that our minds are magical, or that, you know, we somehow were given mathematics, you know, by some other supernatural being. And the fact that math describes our reality, like our physical reality, I would say that, like, math originating from the mind, yes, I agree, because it originated from our mind, the math that we have. But the description of our reality definitely physically exists, because our reality physically exists for, you know, for all intents and purposes of our experiences. So as far as math, like, I don't know. This is a weird way to put it. I have problems with this. Less Than Lucid said, you're a mathematician, Harry!
Math contains infinite information, so this mind must be all-knowing.
I mean, as a concept, infinite sets exist. Like, there's an infinite set of numbers. There's an infinite amount of combinations that you can put numbers in. Like, all of that, sure, those are concepts. But that doesn't mean that those like, a concept doesn't necessarily have to physically exist. And I don't understand how he goes infinite information to all-knowing. I mean, I guess if you were all-knowing, you'd have infinite information. But again, infinite, the idea of an infinite is just a concept, just like all-knowing is a concept. And I'm not exactly sure how you can actualize that.
Math controls the universe, so this mind must also be all-powerful. And math is beyond and outside of our natural world, so this mind must be supernatural.
So this is the false false equivalence thing. Like, it's a non sequitur. He's trying to say, oh, well, math proves God because of these characteristics that we've identified. We can map those to what my God is claimed to be, so therefore, math comes from God. Math is magical.
And we have just described God. All these numbers and mathematical facts exist in the infinite mind of God, but it's not just mathematical truth that exists in the mind of God, but also moral truth and any kind of truth at all. Goodness, truth, and beauty are just mere opinions of the human mind, unless there is a supreme mind, God, who overrules all human opinions.
Wait, does God have an opinion on beauty? Like, I mean, I've heard the argument from beauty before. I actually have a video on my channel about it, but that seems like the most petty thing for God to be concerned with. Also, even if there were a God that did have opinions on beauty and truth and goodness and all that kind of stuff, we are still unable to access that as far as we know. Everybody now uses their subjective minds in order to determine goodness. And I mean, a little bit to determine truth, although I will say that if what you think is truth doesn't comport with the reality that we exist in, then you're going to have a bad time. So I think that you could objectively identify what is truth and what isn't. But I mean, that's because the standard is, does this statement comport with what we experience in reality? If it doesn't, then it's not truth. And that's a way to be objective about what is truthful. Goodness is an inherently subjective word to use. It's a subjective concept. Beauty, also a subjective concept. I really don't give two fucks what God might think about beauty and goodness, because whatever God thinks about beauty and goodness is really just some human jackass telling me what God thinks about those things. It's not God coming down himself and like wagging his dick around and being like, yep, this is good. Like, that's not what's happening. It's some jackass that says, "Trust me, bro. I know what God thinks." Okay, like that's what it literally is.
Because math is beyond time, space, and limits, the existence of math proves the existence of God because math is in the mind of God.
You have not proven that whatsoever. Oh, let's see. Jane Pusecker says, "Who is the father of math? Wasn't it the Romans?" Well, the math that we have today, like there was a lot of mathematical advancements done by Arabians. Let's see who. Huh? Oh, Galileo. Yeah, we actually went to the city where Galileo was from, and they've got murals of Galileo that are painted on the sides of buildings. Let's see. The creation of math cannot be attributed to a single individual or a definitive starting point. Mathematics evolved over millennia with contributions from various civilizations and scholars around the world. The earliest evidence of mathematical thinking can be traced back to ancient civilizations such as the Sumerians and Egyptians, who developed early number systems and applied mathematical concepts to architecture, astronomy, and commerce around 2000 BCE to 1800 BCE. And then you've also got the Greeks that were doing it. So and then Middle Eastern mathematicians also helped a lot with math. So I mean, there's no single person that started it, and there was no single civilization that really did it. But if you had to peg anybody, it looks like it's the Sumerians and Egyptians that originally started it, started doing some mathematical stuff. Jester Lord of Fools sent in their member chat to say, look at the language we made up to describe the reality around us. Doesn't it do a good job of it after thousands of years of human refinement? Yes, that's right, Jester. Totally right there on the nose. And to say that math proves God because math is in the mind of God, he did a very poor, like it was a non sequitur, but he did a very poor analysis of that. Because primarily with that particular argument, you're assuming characteristics of God. And so you're making these like weird... You're drawing these weird conclusions from a curated set of properties of mathematics to a curated set of properties of your particular God that we haven't actually been able to determine is like the attributes of God. And then you're saying one proves the other. Well, I mean, you know, we can all get in a circle jerk too. And, you know, I guess everybody will be getting off at that point, but I mean, I feel like it's the exact same thing. It's just a giant circle jerk because you're piling assumption onto assumption onto assumption, and each assumption supports the previous assumption there.
As the great scientist Galileo said, math is the language with which God has written the universe.
So the fuck what? I'm sure Galileo had other things that he thought were incorrect. I mean, he was a brilliant mind, but that doesn't mean that he's all-knowing or that we should take, you know, things that Galileo believed to be true and is actually as being actually true. But you know, I feel like the things that Galileo was right about, we've been able to prove he was right, and that's why we believe him. We don't believe him just because Galileo said it, right? Because Galileo valued evidence. Now, Galileo was religious, obviously, but just because one fuck in the past or even multiple fucks in the past have said that math is the language with which God has written the universe, that's just the way that they understand it. That doesn't mean that it's true. That's just their perception. And that's going to be it for the video, I believe. Yep, that's all. Pretty short tonight. as far as that goes. We do have the Skeptic Mafia to get to, so please stick around for that if you like to hear what the Mafia members say. But all in all, for this video, I was not convinced. There were non sequiturs everywhere. There was an argument from authority right there at the very end. But all in all, basically, he takes a curated list of certain attributes of mathematics and then defines his God in a way that would directly match what he's saying about mathematics. And so then he draws the inference, well, God must be the creator of mathematics, or it must be in the mathematics must be in the mind of God. And so it's not convincing whatsoever. It was a poor argument, but that video has like 200,000 views on it. I don't know how it got that. Huh? I know. I wish that I could make just a dumb fuck video and it get that popular. That would be awesome. I did do it that one time though. It still has like 800,000 views on it. But I mean, it wasn't like I was being a dumb fuck. Other people were being dumb fucks and I was laughing at them about it. But in any case, so yeah, that's pretty much it for that. I don't think this should convince anybody. Math does not come from God. You guys know where I stand on the nuance between nominalism and realism. And, you know, that's pretty much where I'm at until I can be convinced otherwise. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video tonight, but I would love for you to leave your comments either in the live chat right now or in the comments after this live stream is done. Do you think that he had a solid argument for, you know, math being from God? Or do you think that he needs to go back to the drawing board and rework his math on this particular concept? Let me know down below in the comments what you think. And while you're down there, why don't you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens. But don't go, because we have the Skeptic Mafia that left their 2 cents. A few of them left their 2 cents on the video tonight. Posts. For sure, a few of them. All right, so first up is Hellbound Hillbilly. Thank you, Hellbound Hillbilly. He says, this entire video is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of mathematics and the use of that misunderstanding to blame it on God. Yeah, I totally agree. And then we got Jonathan Nickel. Over 5 minutes of sheer nonsense, demonstrating nothing other than the existence of mathematics. To assert that mathematics demonstrates the existence of a God is the kind of stretch that a contortionist would fail to achieve. The narrator of this video clearly didn't. My nephew is studying mathematics at university, and I am confident that nowhere in his lectures was he ever shown a God equation. How do I know this? Because there clearly isn't one. Maths can be complex and offer significant scope, but it is not supernatural. And again, the differences between realism and nominalism, like realism does not mean that it's supernatural. That was a logical leap, a non sequitur, if you will, from what realism actually is. So I totally agree. There's no supernatural shit in here. Ninjester just says, or Jester just says, slow clap. Great non sequitur, dude. And then we've got Space Tomato 69, who says, I don't even know where to begin to explain it to this guy, and I don't want to make you read a long diatribe when you probably would have already said the same thing already. So I'll just use you. So I'll just use you with ASCII, which uses math, kinda. No, Walter, he didn't say meth. He said math. Oh, goddamn Walter White. He's every goddamn time. Anyway, if you want to cook me, I mean, do you do good maths in stuff, go ahead and give that like a big old lick and slobber all over your phone, and go ahead and subscribe as well. But Casey's over there shaking her head like, don't do that. Don't lick your phones. That's gross. Clean your phones, but don't lick your phones. Don't clean them like a cat, though. Just saying. If you're feeling especially charitable, go ahead and join as a member, and you'll get a lot of perks. What perks? Well, insert a generic shilling here. We are going to be starting up the Skeptic Mafia podcast again. I know that we've been taking a lot of time off, but we've been pretty busy with my surgery and everything like that. I've just not really been feeling up to generating that content. So, but we will be starting that back up again. And then we'll also, I was just about to mention it. Then we also have the Daily Bible podcast that we're going to be starting up again too soon. So be on the lookout for that. And then as far as the Mafia perks go, you get great emojis. There's a hangout once a month, which I think that probably next weekend is going to be the next time I have free. Yeah, next weekend will be the Mafia hangout. So I'll be putting up a thing about that next weekend or next week to plan for the weekend. And I'll promise not to fuck it up this time. Fucked it up last time. But you get a lot of great shit, and you get to support us here at the at GE. So really hope that you guys consider becoming a member. Oh, you get to pick the video too. So I put up a poll every Wednesday or Thursday for the Mafia members to pick what video we watch. This week it was split, so I went with the pick that KC had. Yeah, Casey never gets her pick, so I let her have her pick this week. Were you satisfied?
I mean, I didn't get to listen to it because the thing was dead, so...
Oh, fuck. I'm sorry, hon. Okay. But anyways, so there's the generic shilling. And remember the mantra, KC is always right. I will listen to KC. I will follow KC's recommendations. KC is God. Eat your goddamn fruits and vegetables and fucking drink some goddamn water. I got some water tonight. That's what I'm drinking. This is a star fruit something or another. Pucker up my asshole. Strawberry star fruit. That's good shit. Drink some goddamn water, you heathens. Tomato out. Thank you so much there. Space Tomato 69. All right, so that's going to be it. So glad that you guys have joined us, and I guess that we will see you heathens next week. We have a video about the evidence for Jesus, and we also have a video from a Muslim who thinks that there are a few problems with atheism and then presents a couple of arguments for God. So we've got that going on next week. We'll also have a special clip going up from the Zadanza channel. I recently joined Zod, Prophet Azad, on his Zadanza channel, the channel that he runs with Dan from Truth Wanted. And we had some fun on there, and there's a couple of sections that I thought would be interesting to put up on this channel. So to help promote their channel and give you all some pretty good content here, going to be putting up those next week too. So I hope to see you guys next week, and I guess I will catch y'all later. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice. Bye, heathens.